Good morning. We are gathering our gang in the playground, the common housewife and husband. And from our previous anecdotes, we know the idea of a good citizen and the idea of home economics. And we'll make an appeal to publicize those so that those two are in the public domain. And now we have a language, a way of talking about things, a way of getting the thoughts out. Excuse me. There's something else we need to publicize, and to publicize very dearly, and that's the idea that we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a peasant and property class society, and if you happen to be in the peasant class, it just isn't going to work out. We're like all the other countries now. So let's stop and have a talk about that. This is being filmed not long after the Christmas holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And just before Christmas, there was something on Facebook. It was a woman, and she had 2 children, and she was depressed. She had 2 children, but no money for Christmas presents. And her friends were rallying around her, telling her that it's okay, remember the true meaning of Christmas, and those sorts of things. And from our point of view, the way she was talking, she did understand the meaning of Christmas, and she was the kind of gal that would go back and ask the 10-year-old what he wanted for his birthday and what he wanted for Christmas. The problem is she just didn't have the funds she didn't have the family budget for Christmas presents. Let's remember that and continue. After Christmas, before New Year's, there was a gal on Facebook. She was a young gal, and she had a newborn. And she posted something very early on Facebook, and to paraphrase, she was getting up a few times during the night for her child, and now she had to take her child and get up, get dressed, and take her child to the daycare center and work all day. And she was at the end of her ropes. What she said was she had lost her identity. Now let's remember that and put those 2 gals together so we can talk about them. This is wrong. This is nightmarishly wrong, and especially in the United States, when our whole shtick is to go in the other direction, to be a world of home economics. There's Sarah, and she's a secretary in St. Louis. Sarah doesn't have the identity of being a secretary. Sarah has the identity of being, well, Sarah. She's a citizen of the United States. That means she buys into the idea of being a normal, well-adjusted person. And she's the very first definition of what the United States is. It's first her, and then the geography and those sorts of things come in second. And she doesn't give up being a secretary and get married and raise a family. She doesn't have to be a secretary. And she found a husband and gets married, and she raises a family. She takes courses in home economics and child rearing, and it's a profession, and it's a very profound profession. And in our world, a world of home economics, the husband makes enough money to support a wife and those 2.2 children they used to always talk about. This is where the working class becomes the middle class and life becomes easy. There just happens to be, put that in quotes, enough money for food and clothing and Christmas presents and the holiday season. You can do that rather easily. You can set things up that way rather easily. It takes about a generation to get good at it. And to repeat ourselves, that's the world everybody thinks, everybody wants to attain. Everybody says they want to end up at. That's usually what's considered the ideal world. We don't live in that world anymore. Remember, we had a revolution in this country in the 1970s in the United States, and the people, the feminists, the gals were the feminists and the civil rights movement and Harry the hippie. They had a chance to either get onto a maintenance level or to cash in on it all and become the upper class in a peasant and property class society, and they chose the latter. And now you're paying the consequences of that. It has nothing to do with you. There's 2 categories now. One is the peasant and property class, and the other is the good paddle of good and evil. They chose to be an upper class, and in the second category, they chose to be an intellectual. Let's start to end this anecdote. Let's understand that it's not your fault. If you're the gals on Facebook and you're upset and it just doesn't work out, it's not going to work out, and it's just going to get worse. If you're a gal, I don't think you'll understand what it's like to be a guy and work all day and still not make enough money to support a wife and children. And it's absolutely devastating, especially if the people who owns the shop or owns the factory are people who got into gold and real estate rather than the people who built the factory and built the shop. There are words for that. A peon and a peasant are two of them. So let's end this anecdote by making an appeal to publicize that, to put that in the public domain, so it's quite clear that we have a class of peasantry. We're just like all the other countries now. And if you happen to be those two gals, or you know of them, grab them and bring them over to this camp. They belong over here. And if you're a bit daydreamy and you're up to it, and if you would, go back to Christmas and tell yourself you live in a detached house and there's a hubby and you both put up the Christmas tree and you have two children. How much of a Christmas budget do you need? How much of a holiday budget do you need? Excuse me. There's how much is a cowboy hat and a cap pistol for that little man of yours, and a new doll for that cutie pie girl of yours, and perhaps a couple of bicycles from Santa Claus? How much money do you need in the family budget that's part of the Christmas budget? And don't forget to include Thanksgiving. It costs money and time and effort to put up Christmas, to make Thanksgiving a special time. And especially, don't forget New Year's. Forgive me for sounding earthy, but if you're the gal that's going to change the dirty diapers, then the biological part of sex and the pleasure part of sex is your domain. How much does it cost for you to grab that husband of yours and you get dressed and you head for town and you go to the nightclub in town? Include that in your budget. Include that in the holiday budget. And call us and let us know how much that is. It's important for us to start putting numbers to that, at least an idea. And then we'll ask your hubby, how many hours does he have to work in order to come up with that? And so those are the three things: to publicize the idea of home economics, and to publicize the idea of being a good citizen of God and country. It's a Catholic thing. I'm an American Yank. I'm a Catholic in the pews. And now about the idea that we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a peasant and property class society, and right now the people who are running the people who are in charge are the people who cashed in on it all. We'll see you on the next anecdote.